You feel it, don't you? That presence that never fades, that name that keeps echoing in your mind. No matter how much time has passed, how many times you've tried to move on, how many excuses you've made for yourself, something always brings that person back into your thoughts. You might pretend not to see the signs, but they're there. In the most unlikely moments, in coincidences that seem too absurd to be mere chance. Destiny hasn't forgotten about you. It's just been waiting for the right moment. And now, everything is shifting. Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you think it's too late, that there's no sense in going back. But if that were true, why do you still feel that something isn't finished? Why that restlessness every time you think of that person? The universe is already at work, but the question is, will you ignore it one more time? Or will you recognize what's always been there? What if I told you that this connection never went away? That it's just been sitting there waiting for the right moment to reappear? You may have taken other paths, met other people, built a different life, but deep down you know nothing compares to what you shared. Because it wasn't just any meeting. It wasn't just another name in your story. It was something that marked you, that shaped parts of who you are. And no matter how hard you've tried to forget, no matter how many times you've told yourself it's in the past, there's always something that pulls you back. And then, suddenly, the coincidences start. Small details that seem to mean nothing, but awaken something within you. A place that brings back memories, a song that plays at the wrong moment, a name that pops up when you least expect it. Destiny always finds a way to remind you that certain stories aren't meant to end. But what about you? Are you going to keep pretending you don't see? Will you insist on ignoring what's right in front of you? Or will you gather the courage to accept that some connections simply can't be erased? Maybe this time apart was necessary. Maybe you both needed to grow to understand each other's worth, to learn how to handle everything differently. But now, something is happening. You feel it. This person feels it. Even without talking, there's something there. And if there's one thing you need to understand, it's that fate doesn't play around. When it decides it's time, there's no obstacle that can stand in the way. Have you stopped to think about why this person is still so present within you? Because it's not normal. If it were just a memory, it would have faded with time. But no, you can distract yourself, keep busy, try to avoid it. But in the stillness of the night, when everything gets quiet, that presence returns. You feel it. You know it. And the question now is, how long will you resist? How long will you pretend that this connection doesn't mean anything? How long will you ignore the signs that the universe is placing in your path? The truth is that some people are destined to return. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter how much time has passed. When fate chooses, nothing can stop it, but it doesn't do everything on its own. It can put the opportunities in front of you, give you the signs, show you the way. But the one who decides to take the step is you. And now, are you going to leave this story behind once again? Or will you do what, deep down, you've always known you should have done? You feel that restlessness in your chest, don't you? As if something is calling you, pulling you back to something that was never truly resolved. You might have tried to run away, to convince yourself it was just in your head, but deep down, you know it isn't. Because some connections simply don't fade away. They remain there, alive, latent, waiting for the right moment to resurface. What if I told you that this moment could be now? Have you noticed how the universe has been placing little signs in your path? People mention that name out of nowhere. Places you used to go suddenly appear before you without explanation. That song starts playing again at unlikely times. It seems like coincidence, but it isn't. Because when something needs to happen, everything conspires in its favor. You might deny it. You can pretend you don't see it, that you don't feel it. But what if that person is feeling the same way? What if, on the other side, they're also struggling against that feeling that something isn't over yet? Time has passed. You've changed. Life happened. But if, even after all that, this presence still lingers within you, maybe it's because it was never meant to end. Maybe it's because, from the beginning, this story was written for a reunion. Have you thought about that? How many times have you held back from acting out of pride, out of fear of looking weak, out of hesitance to open a door you didn't know if you could close later? How many times have you tried to stifle that feeling, to put someone else in their place, to fill your mind with other things? And yet, nothing has ever filled that emptiness. Because some absences cannot be replaced. Have you ever asked yourself why this person still affects you? Why time hasn't managed to erase it? Why those feelings haven't died? Why every time you least expect it, that memory comes back? Fate might have separated you so that you could learn something. It might have placed challenges in your way to test if that connection was strong enough. But one thing is certain, when something needs to happen, the universe finds a way. And now you're here, feeling all of this. You can keep ignoring it. You can pretend you don't see it, that you don't feel it, that it's just in your head. Or you can accept that some connections are greater than our understanding. But be honest with yourself. How long will you put off the inevitable? Because the truth is, you already know the answer. You feel it. You've always known. And there you are, reading this, feeling each word as if it were a mirror of what's inside you. There's no point in denying it, because that feeling is real. No matter how much you try to ignore it, it's still there, pulsing in the depths of your chest. You can move on, occupy your mind, convince yourself it's just a phase. But what if it isn't? Have you ever stopped to think about why all of this is happening? Why this specific person has never completely left your life? Because if it was something insignificant, it would have faded away with time. But it hasn't. It has grown stronger. It may have hidden for a while, but it has never truly disappeared, and you feel it. You know that something is unfinished. Life has taken you down other paths. You've lived other experiences, met other people, maybe even tried to build a new story. But at some point, everything always circles back to the same point. To that person, to that feeling, to that part of your story that has never really closed. And it's not just about nostalgia. It's not just about remembering someone who was important. It's about sensing that there's something there that still needs to happen. And what if I told you that this person feels the same way? That on the other side of this story, someone also feels that connection, that absence, that pull. Fate may have separated you for a time, but it never permanently separates those who still have something to experience together. It may have created barriers, set challenges, forced you apart to learn some lessons, but it always finds a way to bring back together those who were never meant to be lost. You feel the signs. You notice the coincidences. You know that this isn't just in your head. The truth is you're afraid. Afraid of reliving what has already hurt you. Afraid of opening a door that should never have been closed. Afraid to allow yourself to feel all of this again, and who knows, maybe lose once more. But what if this time is different? What if the time that has passed was just what you needed to finally reconnect in the right way? What if now is the moment the universe has been waiting for to align everything? You can keep pretending you don't see the signs. You can convince yourself that it's better to leave everything as it is. You can hide behind fear and excuses, or you can simply accept what you've always known. Because deep down you know you've always known. You might try to ignore it, go on with your routine, convince yourself that everything is fine, but something inside you still pushes you toward that person. You feel it in the most unexpected moments, in that instant when everything is quiet and suddenly her name pops into your mind, in dreams that feel so real that they wake you up with your heart racing, in everyday situations that unintentionally remind you of her. Why is it still like this? Why, even after so much time, does that connection remain so strong? You may have been through a lot. You may have matured, you may have changed, but there's something inside you that doesn't change, something that no matter how hard you try to bury, always finds a way to resurface. What if I told you that this person feels the same? That this connection isn't one-sided, that it's not just you who sees the signs. Maybe you think you've left it all behind, that there's nothing more to be done. But if that were true, why do you still feel that restlessness? Why is there still a void that no one else has been able to fill? Time doesn't erase what is true. Time can heal wounds, can bring new experiences, can teach you lessons. But what is real continues to exist, regardless of what happens. And now, you feel it stronger than ever, because the universe is trying to tell you something. It's showing you that this story isn't over yet. But are you ready to listen? Will you continue to ignore it, distract yourself, pretend you don't see what's happening? Or will you, for the first time, admit to yourself what you've known for a long time? Fate can give you all the chances. It can place signs in front of you, do everything to show you the way, but it can't choose for you. So tell me, will you keep resisting? Or will you finally accept what has always been there? What if this is the last chance? Have you thought about that? Have you considered that maybe fate has given you so many opportunities and you've squandered them all? That this person has grown tired of waiting? That the signs won't keep appearing forever? Because the universe doesn't insist. It shows, alerts, places paths in front of you. But if you ignore, shut down, or pretend to be blind to what's obvious, it moves on. It continues. And when you finally realize what you've lost, it may be too late. Do you really want to carry that regret? Because the worst feeling in the world isn't longing. It's not distance. It's not fear. It's the certainty that you could have done something and didn't. It's looking back and realizing you had a chance in your hands, but let it slip away. And you're very close to that. Close to seeing this person truly move on, to seeing them choose another path because they've grown tired of waiting for a sign from you. Close to understanding, in the worst possible way, that some opportunities don't come back. And it won't help to come later when it's already too late. When this person no longer looks at you the same way. When they found someone who did what you didn't have the courage to do. You will regret it. You'll remember every time the universe showed you the way and you ignored it. You'll recall every moment you felt the urge to act and hesitated. You'll think back on every dream, every coincidence, every moment that could have been different but wasn't. So, what are you going to do? Because there's still time. There's still a chance, but it won't wait for you forever. So answer me, are you going to take action? Or are you going to watch this story end forever? The decision has always been yours. Fate can give you signs, create opportunities, bring back everything that seemed lost. But if you keep standing still, waiting for everything to resolve itself, you'll watch this story slip through your fingers without being able to do anything about it. And you know this. How many times have you wanted to act but didn't have the courage? How many times have you rehearsed words you never said? How often, in the silence of your own thoughts, have you wondered if that person still thinks about you, if they still feel, if they're still waiting? And what if I told you that, at this very moment, that person might be feeling exactly the same? Fate may have kept you apart for a while. It may have caused each of you to take a different path. But some ties are too strong to be broken. Some stories are interrupted but never truly finished, and everything around you is showing you this. You feel that presence, even when you don't want to. You see signs where no one else does. You realize that no matter how hard you tried to forget, that connection never really faded away. What if this isn't just a coincidence? What if all of this is the universe trying to show you that this story isn't over yet? Maybe you're afraid to try and fail, afraid to open a door that might hurt you again, afraid to relive something that has already caused too much pain. But what if this time is different? What if all this time that has passed was meant for you to finally reconnect in the right way? Because time can change people. It can teach lessons that once seemed impossible to learn. It can show that certain things need to be valued before they disappear forever. And if now, after everything, is the right moment, you have two choices. You can keep ignoring what you feel, convincing yourself that it means nothing, letting time pass until everything is lost for good. Or you can gather your courage and do what needs to be done. Because fate can open paths, but it can't walk for you. And if you don't act now, you may never get another chance. So, tell me, what will you do? Will you keep waiting? Will you risk losing this connection forever? Or will you allow yourself to experience what you've always known isn't over yet? I want to know your answer. I want to hear your story. Leave your comment down below and tell me, do you believe that fate can bring together two people who were separated by time? Have you ever experienced something like that? If this message resonated with you, go ahead and leave a like right now. It helps more people who need to hear this find this message. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel now because some messages come at just the right time, and this could have been yours.